forget, we'll ask those, and then you can come off mute right at the end and do open questions. Enjoy, folks.
Fantastic. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yeah, that looks good.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my presentation on creating a bot using Azure Cognitive Service for Language and Azure Bot Service. It's a bit of a mouthful, but basically we're going to create a bot using a couple of really cool Azure services. That's kind of the gist of it. So a big thank you to Pete and Jess and all the sponsors for tonight's event. A bit about me, I'm Keith Atherton, and I've been a software developer for over 20 years. I work for various companies and sectors in the UK and US, and I currently work as a senior software developer for an IT consultancy in Edinburgh called Quorum. My contact details are on screen, so if anyone wants to contact me directly after this talk, if you've got any questions, I'm always happy to help and share knowledge if I can. So a bit about this talk. There are only going to be a few slides. Most of it will be using the services hands-on. But saying that, some of the services can take a minute or two to provision. So some of them will be pre-provisioned services, just so we don't waste time during the presentation. Okay, so the reason for this, the reason we're looking into bots in Microsoft's documentation, they've got some wording to say, in today's connected world, people use lots of different tech stacks and channels, whether it be voice calls, even emails still, or social media platforms. And people use them, they're in regular use. People often want to ask questions and get very quick answers to them. So in the screenshot there, that's actually for the contact page for Nottingham Trent University, which is where I happened to go to back in the day. And you can see there, they've got things like the phone number, email address, postal address as well, and an array of different social media channels that they're active with. So again, a lot of these channels, they might get, some are busier than others, but often people might be asking questions, looking for more information. And a quick example there's a Panthers Facebook page, and you can see there's got the Facebook Messenger there in the corner. There has been an automated response for a quick question, but again, there's many ways you can contact organizations. So with that being said, one popular option is to use bots. There's certainly more take up. It's certainly gathering pace of a way of using some AI in the form of a bot to provide like a first line support. So someone's asking basic questions, when are your opening hours? Where are you based? What services do you provide? Things like this. Bots are a really good opportunity to provide that first line of support. In fact, I've got a friend who runs a company where they create machine learning based software. It's actually to do form reading and go through different documents and parse them and save them. And when they bootstrapped the company, just the two of them, they actually did use bots as the first line support. So any time saved, they could spend the time on the company getting things up and running. So it was a massive, massive time saver, an effort saver for them as well, to kind of field these basic questions that were coming in. So on the screenshot there, we can see that's actually an Azure chatbot, and they've got some menu options there. You can click the buttons, or you can do a free type. So a bit more into the bot itself, one key element of a bot is having conversational AI. So a way of using natural language. So when you speak, it's very, it's very human-like. It's not just harsh factual answers. It's, you can converse back and forth. And on the example there in the screenshot, we can see at the top. So it's, hi, I'm a support bot. How can I help? Someone's asking questions. This is actually from Microsoft Learn, this example. You can see back and forth. It can actually understand, ask appropriate questions. And even in the case below, you can see it's actually, enter 1, 2, or 3. It's almost like a menu system at that point as well. And the thing with bots as well, while we can use them in these, web chat bots like this messaging window, you can use them on voice calls or email as well. It's not just restricted to a free type messaging window. So some of the things that we'll hear about that keeps things natural, this kind of natural conversational language, we'll hear terms like natural language processing, NLP, and also NLU, natural language understanding, sometimes gets a mention as well. Now, this is the kind of AI side of things behind the scenes where it can actually understand. It can actually have features like language detection, are they speaking in English or a different language, a sentiment analysis. So is the sentiment of the language, is it positive? Is it negative? It could be neutral. That could be useful for things if you were parsing many different product reviews or something like that. If you had a large number of them, you could actually run a tool to see, are there any negative ones, any unhappy customers that I can then focus on? Key phrase extraction, what is someone exactly asking for? I'd like to book a flight. I'd like to book a table. What are they asking for? What's the request? An entity recognition is really just pulling out the different elements. I'd like to book a table for 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock, it's pulling out the specific values, the time, the locations, things like this. And in the Microsoft Azure world, we do have this reference to Lewis as well, Language Understanding Intelligence Service. That's in some of the documentation. And in the screenshot there, we can see, there's a text input, play this song by this artist. And there's a way, it can actually parse this out, strip these out, get the valuable information from the request. And for those who are interested in learning about bots and AI and machine learning, the way things are going, there was an interesting thing in the news a few weeks ago. A Google engineer working on their one of their artificial intelligence systems, their Lambda system, when he was actually testing and speaking back and forth with this AI, he believed that the AI had become sentient. He was that convinced, it was that accurate, in his mind, the way it worked, the kind of questions it was asking, the things that they were talking about. They were talking about, pretty heavy stuff, things about life and death and the bot not wanting to be turned off, things like this. So if you've not seen that in the news, it's well worth a read. It's quite an interesting article, but it certainly speaks to how fast the AI is evolving at the moment. The capabilities of it, it's really gathering pace. Certainly with the tech available and the the processing power available as well. But what we'll look at today is a bit simpler than that. We'll be looking at creating a web chatbot just based off an FAQ document. So I'll have question and answer pairs. We'll already have that information. We just need to plug it in, create the service, create the bot that would attach to it. And the couple of services that we require for this will have a knowledge base. This will have those question and answer pairs, and that'll have the built-in natural language processing model that we talked about. And also the bot service, that'll be the second part of this, and that'll actually just provide an interface to that knowledge base. And again, we could use the bot service with many different channels, whether it be Microsoft Teams or a web chatbot, which is what we'll look at today. But there are various options that we can deploy the bot to. So the first one of those services is the Azure Cognitive Service for language. So the Azure Cognitive Services, this is kind of an umbrella that Microsoft Azure have. It lets you deploy AI models and you've got APIs to call them. So the different services they've got things like speech, language, which is the one we'll be using today with free typing of text, vision, pretty self-explanatory, and they've got decision and some cool OpenAI things available as well. It's really grown in recent years. Now, the language service we're looking at, there are several features, but the one we'll actually use today is very bespoke for this FAQ approach, this frequently asked questions. So it'll be custom question answering feature is what it's called. And then the other service is the Azure Bot Service. So again, this will provide an interface to that knowledge base, and then we can deploy it to different channels. So in the screenshot on the left there, we can see we've got, from those icons, you could probably tell there's things like Teams, Zoom, Skype, even voice calls and SMS. So again, a whole bunch of options with bots. Now, I want to, just before we get started, just give a few quick mentions to a few other services we've got out there as well. So again, things are really gathering pace with AI and the way Microsoft Azure, the services they provide, and the evolution of those services. I've given a similar talk to this before, and even in the few months since I gave that talk, the services, some have changed, some have been retired or deprecated. And one of them I talked about before was the Q&A maker. Again, question and answer peers, Q&A maker. Even has its own website as well, qandamaker.ai. And this was designed specifically for FAQs. You've got a question and answer peers, you have a list of them. But now Azure, they are encouraging everyone to use these Azure Cognitive Services, you know, this umbrella that kind of contains them all, as opposed to lots of disparate, separate services. So this Q&A maker, while it was used before, they're actually going to retire that in just under 3 years' time. But beginning October this year, you won't be able to provision any new services on it. They really are trying to push to the new Azure Cognitive Services umbrella that they've got. So if ever you see any docs or tutorials or older videos, and there's reference to Q&A maker, this is just a heads up what that's talking about. Another, excuse me. Another quick mention as well is to Power Virtual Agents, sometimes just PVA. I think these are really cool. This is part of the Microsoft's Power Platform. That includes things like Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents as well. And this is a really cool way, if you want to create a bot with quite an authored logic, you know, it's got like a very logical way of going through, ask this question, you know, if the answer is yes, do this. If the answer is no, do that. You know, show a menu option. Okay, choose 1, 2, or 3 to pick which option you want. It's really good for that. It's really good for the authored logic. And you can see in the screenshot there, there's a way, like a visual flow diagram. You can actually click and drag and pull this together. So this is a way Microsoft are aiming for those, you know, low code, no code sitters and devs, you know, all the terms that they use for people who, you know, maybe not as technically, savvy as say a professional developer, whatever that means. But people can click and drag, including pro devs. I mean, I've used this and I do development quite regularly, and I just find it a really cool tool. It's a really good option, very, very good. So again, if ever you hear a mention of that, that's what Power Virtual Agents is. Another way to create a bot, but using this visual flow diagram. Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to dive into the services in a moment. To get started, again, we've got the kind of 2 main parts of this. The first part will be creating this custom question answering knowledge base, or these Q&A pairs. To do that, we actually need to provision a language service in Azure. We define the question and answers, which we'll do from an FAQ document, which has already been prepared. We define those question and answers. And after that, we need to test the knowledge base, just make sure it behaves as we expect. Then we can use that knowledge base. And then the second part is actually building the bot itself. So with the bot, we'll actually create it based on that knowledge base. We can extend and configure the bot. We've got various options. And then at the very end, as we say, we can connect channels. We'll look at a web chat bot today, but it is possible to use various other channels as well. All righty. Okay, so live demo time. Let me just fire this up. Okay, so again, I'll probably fly through some of these Azure services and things. And some of the services, again, they will be pre-provisioned just so we don't waste time sitting for 2 minutes while we provision different services. But if this is useful, again, this is going up on YouTube. You can always watch back and follow along. Microsoft Learn also has some really good step-by-step instructions for this as well. But yeah, right, let's crack on. So what we need to do first is create this language service. So in the Azure portal itself, if you go in and just log in as your user, I'll go ahead and create a resource. We'll go ahead and create a language service. Looking good. We'll go ahead and create. So for this type of FAQ document, when we use the language service, we do actually get several default features just straight out the bag. We talked before about the sentiment analysis. Is someone speaking negatively, positively? The various, named entity recognition. There's a bunch of really cool features. What we'll also need to add one of these custom features specifically for this, question and answer pairing. So this one right here, this custom question answering, we'll go ahead and select this. We'll need this as well. We'll continue. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just sort of step through some of these basic options. I won't go through these in too fine detail, but I have a pay-as-you-go subscription. Your resource group, if you've got an RG already, go ahead and select, or you can just go ahead and create a new one yourself. Region, I'll actually go somewhere a bit more local than the default. So I'll go UK South. You can call this anything you want. Let's my bot, something unique. The pricing tier as well, there's a few options here. So I've just mentioned, I've actually got the S option, which is 1,000 calls per minute. So depending on your organization, that actually could be appropriate, this higher volume that you expect. I would say there's also a free option, an F option. It's not showing for me because I've already used it. I think you get one use of it and you can't use any more. But if you're creating one just to play around with, I'd highly recommend just use the free option. Just have a play around. It's cheaper. But I'll go ahead and choose S. Oh, there we go. There's a little reference there just to the F. So it's already been used. That's why it's not appearing in the list. Okay, so for the custom question answering itself, I'll go to the search, the search region. Again, I'll just choose somewhere a bit more local for me. For the search pricing tier, depending how many indexes for the searching that you wish to have, again, I'll stick with the free F, but if you do, again, if it is appropriate, if you do want more performance or more indexes, I should say, there are more options available just there. And at the very end, just here, this is very important actually, is the responsible AI notice. And there's a lot of really cool documentation, which we'll mention a bit later on as well, about using AI responsibly, doing things the right way. So if you're doing things, involving health, or there's any personal identifiable information, any PII, there's various sort of standards and guidelines to follow, trying to avoid bias in the data, making things inclusive, doing things, being cool about it, basically. So there's some really useful information. And at the end, if you just go ahead, acknowledge that you're happy you're going to do the right thing, just crack on with review and create. Let me see, what have I missed? Go back to the basics. Oh, probably because I'm trying to use a free one. I've already used a free one. Let me see if that's it. Oh, no, it's lost my RG. Let me jump back in. That's no longer free. It's going to validate again. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, trying to use too many free options. Okay, so once you've gone through and you're happy with everything, everything's configured, you just go ahead and click create just down there. I think it maybe took a minute or so when I ran this, but again, in Blue Peter fashion, I've actually created one already, just to save us time. So I'll go ahead and close that down. Okay, so now that we've created the language service with everything that we need, the next thing to do is actually go to the Language Studio, which is a different site. So what we'll do is go right here. This is language.cognitive.azure.com. And this is the Language Studio specific for that service. So now we've got it in Azure, we've got the service ready to use. In here is where we can actually create a project and build that knowledge base ready for the bot. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead in the Language Studio and create new project. We've got a bunch of options just here, but the very sort of niche thing we're looking to do is the custom question answering. So we'll go ahead and click on that. All righty. Okay, so now we're going to create the project. We've got a few options. So the language setting I did before was this. This is what I named it previously. You've got a few options. I want to use the same language for all projects that I use in this resource. Today, I'm going to go with English, but if you so wish, you can actually keep this, different languages for different projects if you wish. We'll click on next. And then from here, we've got some basic information. Again, the language resource that we created in Azure, that's already been created, including the search resource. So that's what these two refer to right here. We'll give this bot a name. So I'll just call it my bot. You can give it a description if you wish. Again, English, that was a previous setting. We're always going to use English. That's what we're going to use going forward. And then just here, this default answer when no answer is returned. So this is quite cool. This is a way that if the FAQ's got very specific questions and answers, and you ask something that it can't cope with, it can't give an answer, here's the stock piece of text that would be returned. So if you're doing a bot for, I don't know, booking things in a cafe, and you start asking, I don't know, Trivial Pursuit questions, it's just going to come back with, I don't know what you're talking about, So you can actually change this text. We'll actually leave this default, but if you so wish, you can actually change the setting later on. It's not set in stone at this point. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click on next. Review and finish. It's just going to review those settings. If you're happy with everything, just go ahead and create the project. But again, just to save us time, I've actually gone ahead and created this project. So I'll just go ahead and cancel there. Alrighty, so the one I've actually created here is this one called Bot Demo. I'm just going to go ahead and click in the project. Okay, so now we've got the project, we can actually get sources of information, all these Q&A pairs. And again, we've got a bunch of options. We'll add them as sources. So if we do this drop down, we've got a few options. So we've got the URL, so you can point to a page, a web page, or even a document hosted on the web somewhere. And that's actually what we'll look to do in a moment. We'll actually go to an FAQ page. You can go to files. So if you actually, I'll click on this. If you go to files, you can actually choose, PDFs, text files. There's a bunch of kind of things in there. Really, really useful. And a really good one as well, this one here called Chit Chat. If you click on this one, this is actually really cool. It's a way, it's dictionaries of pre-built question and answer pairs to give your bot a personality. So if you was working for a charity that worked in the, I don't know, a caring sector or in a caring way, you can give it a caring personality, or if it's a very straight-laced kind of legal firm or a professional place, you want it professional, matter of fact, you can do this too. And a lot of these question and answer pairs, there'll be things like, greetings or hi there or hey, how's it going? It's kind of the different ways it would respond to you when you sign off. If you've got questions or sorry, I didn't quite get that. Could you word it a different way? It's pages and pages full of these different Q&A pairs. Really, really cool. We won't add this today, but that's so a cool feature if you wanted to add it. Okay, so what we will do today, we'll actually go ahead and add a source, and we'll add the URL source. We'll actually go to a web page. So here we can add URLs. We can add up to 10 at a time. So again, we're not just forced to one page or one document. We could actually build up a bot containing, well, in this case, a knowledge base, I should say. Build up the knowledge base with lots of information pulled from different sources if you so wish. So the source that we're going to look at today is a place that I certainly frequented way too often back in the day. So this is the website for Rock City in Nottingham. And like many pages, many clubs, many cafes and places like this, there's often an FAQ document. There we go, FAQ. Alrighty, so in this FAQ, we've got different sections here. We can see, okay, how do I get there? So question, answer. So it's kind of a very standard FAQ format. Okay, things about property, can I get a ticket on the door? Question, answer. So I won't go through this in detail, but you can kind of see the format. It's this kind of FAQ one. It doesn't just need to be in a text file or anything. It's if it's kind of readable in this format, it may well be passable. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and grab this URL. I'll jump back to the Language Studio. I'll actually go ahead and add a URL. Okay, we need to give it a name, so I will call it City FAQ. Paste the URL in just there. We'll leave this as auto detect. and then we'll actually click on add all. Again, we'll just stick with the one this time, but you can add multiple if you so wish. And because that page doesn't really contain too many, this shouldn't take too long as well. There's not too many questions on there. So yeah, I got away with that. Just a few seconds, that was okay. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead and click on the source. And so what we found now is it's actually built up the dictionary of these Q&A pairs. So we can see here, here's the context, here's what it's named it, here's the actual question pulled from the source, and here's the answer. So what are the closest hotels? Here's a bunch of information. If I scroll down, what is the closest car park? So on, so on. So far, so good. You know, it's kept the format. Everything looks okay so far. As we can see here, we've got 6 pages of questions. So it's actually, you know, pulled it all across. It's all looking good so far. Now, when we're in the studio, we do have options to tweak these. If it didn't pull them in quite right, you know, we can select them. We can go ahead and edit if we so wish. We can add alternate phrasing. So, you know, where is the nearest hotel? You know, you can use synonyms, different ways of phrasing it. Where can I stay nearby? You know, where's nearby accommodation? You can actually be a bit more specific on the wording if you wish for these things. And same with the answers and prompts. You can also add, you know, different follow-ups. Okay, how about this hotel? Can I book a room there? Can you help me book a room there? You know, you could make it quite sophisticated if you so wish. So again, the usual kind of editing options you'd expect. We can actually edit existing or delete them. You can actually manually add one in there if it's not included in the document, but you want to add something in. You can just retype and go ahead and pop anything in that you want. So yeah, so far so good. Let's see what else we've got. What are your opening hours? Is there a dress code? Yeah, all right then. So what are your opening hours? I'll maybe stick with that one. That's a bit of a safer question here. So I'll focus on this question answer pair right here. Now, when we're in the language studio, we don't need to take it all the way to the bot level to then test, you know, does this work as I expect? There's a really cool test feature. It's already been trained. It's passed it, got these 29 Q&A pairs. So what we can do is click on test right here, and it opens up a test pane right there. So right here, we can actually just test this knowledge base. We'll get the answers back, and then we can say, are we satisfied? Are we happy this is working, behaving as we expect? So again, I'll pick on this fairly safe one here. What's this? What's your hours? It's working away. Our office open hours are 10 till 6, blah, blah, blah. So we can see it's matching the answer. It's working as we expect. It's got the right answer. A really cool feature of this as well is if you click on this inspect button just under the question, there's a bit more diagnostic information on why it chose that answer. So at the very top, we've got the question, what are your opening hours? Here's the different answers in the order. So the very first answer, which is the correct one that we're after, it's just got our office open hours are 10 till 6. And we have this thing here, a confidence score, and this is out of 1. So we can see we've got a 1.00, so 100% in other words. It's bang on, probably because I use the same exact wording and punctuation and everything. So it knows it's definitely the one that I want. And you can get more information and really dig into those diagnostics. And if we scroll a bit further down, say, well, you know, what came second place, third place? Okay, so second place was this one, only a 15% confidence score, and it's talking about nearby hotels. So that's wrong, which is kind of matched by this low confidence of, I don't think this is right, but I'm going to offer this up. And it can go on and on. But if you do find it's picking the wrong thing or not what you'd hoped, you can actually select it and actually override it. You know, you can manually say, no, actually, this is the one. This is the answer I actually want to give in this case. But in this case, we're correct with this one. So we're good. So we'll go ahead and close this diagnostics. And just to talk about that natural language processing that we talked about before, again, that conversational AI, the way of using different synonyms, different wording to, you know, that's kind of the smarts behind the AI to realize what someone's asking for. So to do that, I'll actually just word the same question, but a different way. Let's see. Open. So great. Okay. Same answer again. we're happy with that. That's definitely the one we want. It's just been worded a different way. It's not matched it, but it's still working as we expect. And again, if we go ahead and click on the inspect, we can see there was the first answer. There's the number one that was actually picked. The confidence score is a bit lower, 86% in effect. But that's kind of the point of it. You know, it's not been bang on 100%, but we know it's kind of close enough. We've kind of got the gist you're talking about being open. In fact, let's just be cheeky, actually. Let's try this. Let's just be really rude and just try open. Really blunt. Okay, yeah, it's gotten away with that as well. Okay, so yeah, you can really kind of test it and say, you know, what can we get away with? And that's kind of working as expected. And if I throw just some rubbish in there, let's try test. Great. And there's that stop text we talked about earlier to say, you know, if you throw something at it and the knowledge base really doesn't know what you're talking about, here's a way to say, look, you know, I've got no clue, you know, I don't know what you're talking about. So, so yeah, so far so good. So I'll just go ahead and close that test down. So everything's working as we expect. So once your testing's done, you're happy with everything, you're ready to go ahead and create the bot and connect it to some channels. What we need to do here is actually just within the language project itself, is if I'll just expand this on the left-hand side, we can actually read what these options are. We'll actually go to deploy knowledge base. So we can actually go ahead and deploy it. That will give us the URL that the bot can connect to for the knowledge base. And then the next steps is actually to create a bot. So to do this, we'll actually click on here is create a bot. This is going to jump us back to the Azure portal. So this is now back to the Azure portal world, the Azure side of things. And that's where it's going to create us, using the bot service, it's going to create a web app bot. Even though it says a web app bot, we are still going to be able to connect it to other channels if we wish as well. So it's not just going to be the web-based one. So again, won't go through these in details for the, you know, the basic info, but we've got a bot handle. Yep, happy with that. The sub's okay. Resource group is fine. UK South. One thing on the pricing tier, again, if you're playing around or just, you know, giving this a go, or just it's non-production, you're just having a play around with things. Pro tip: if you click on this change plan from the standard, that is the default option, you can just go ahead with the free option. So, you know, poke around, see where you can get the free or cheap options if you're just playing around with services. I'll go ahead and select that. We've got an auto-generated app name. It's this URL just here. We're fine with the auto-generated. Okay, this one's quite good. This SDK language, I'll talk more on this in a moment. But if you really wanted to modify the bot and really dig deep and get really, you know, into it and change things, you can actually download the bot source code later on, and then choose whether you use C# or Node.js or JavaScript to actually customize the code of the bot if you really wanted to take it to that level. I'll just leave we won't do that today, but I'll just leave C# as the default entered, which is probably would have been my choice anyway. We have the resource key. There's an app service plan. If there's not one selected, go ahead and just pick one there. I've just gone with this UK South one. And application insights as well. So if you wanted any analytics, if you wanted any diagnostic info to actually kind of investigate any issues with the bot, it's not working as expected, or someone claims it's not behaving as you would expect, this could be useful too. But for today's demo, I won't bother with that. I'll just go ahead and leave that turned off. So again, naturally, we'd go next and click on create. But again, just to save us a minute or two, I've actually gone ahead and already created this service. So I'll actually go ahead and just go home just here. So the web app bot that I've already created, this one just here with the funky little bots icon right here, I'll just go ahead and select this. Here we go. So there's our web app bot. All righty. So from here, I'll just go very quickly over some of these overview options, these three right here. So we talked before about, you could download the bot source code if you wish. And if you really wanted to do that and tinker with it using C# or JavaScript, if you want to go to that level, there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of power there. You can actually go ahead and do that if you so wish. Another option here is just like we did in the language services there with the test pane, we can actually go ahead and test and refine the bot. Just be sure before we deploy it to production, before people are using it, it is working as we expect. And we'll give that a go in a moment. And then last but not least is the publishing to Azure. Again, connecting those channels, like putting it in a web page, which is what we'll do. Or if you want to connect it to, Facebook messaging service or somewhere else. Okay, so the first one we'll do is we'll actually jump into testing web chat, which is going to be very similar to the one we had before. So this hello and welcome, this is just when the bot fires up to let you know that it's ready. So let's try you open. There we go. 10 till 6, extra info, So yeah, it's working as expected. So far, so good. Let's just be really blunt and curt. Yeah, there we go. So it's still working as we expect. Let's just try throw something nonsense at it. Again. So that's not the most thorough testing in the world, but you get the point. Here's where you can really play around, make sure it's working as you'd hope, and then you can have confidence when you connect those channels, which we'll go ahead and do just now using this option here, channels, that everything's working as you'd expect. So now that we're in the channels, it's actually already spun up a web chat one, which is up and running. It's got the healthy service right there, and we'll take a look in a moment. And again, I won't go through these one by one, but we can see, we can use Alexa. We've got Microsoft Teams. We've got Slack. There's a bunch of options here. So there's a lot to play around with, a lot of really cool channels that we can mess around with. But what we'll do is we'll actually look at this web chat and actually just connect it to a web page. So when you spin this service up, it already creates a default site, which is quite handy. So we can jump in here and you can actually change the name. It gives you some service keys, which are hidden here. And one of the cool things is actually this embedded code, this HTML snippet. So you can just put this in your page and then you've got the bot ready to rock. It's as simple as that. So I'll go ahead and just copy this snippet. I'll open a text editor, Notepad++. Other text editors are available. I will jump back to the secret keys right here. So we've got a couple. I'll actually just go ahead and grab this one right here. And the reason we need this is just we've got everything fired up with this URL good to go. It's given us some dimensions, but we just need to replace this secret right there with that. I'll go ahead and save this. Something very imaginative. Let's see, page.html. And I will go ahead and fire this up. Not the best web page in the world, but let me see. There we go. So here's the page itself. Hello and welcome. The bot's ready to go. There's obviously nothing else on the page. I've got it right here. It's in the browser because it's just on my desktop. And you open, and we get the answer we expect. So the short version is I've just waffled on and gone through all these services. But if you really knew what you was doing, and you've got your FAQ document or your page, it really wouldn't take that long. It's fairly straightforward. Say, create the language service, get an FAQ, one or more, and then from there you can build the bot, and you've got your HTML snippet, you've replaced the secret, you've got your bot. That's kind of it. That's kind of it. So it's, again, everything's easy when you know how, but in essence, that's all we've done today. All right, so I'll just jump back to the slides. All righty. So, because no AI talk is complete without a Terminator reference, obviously, but because you can do cool stuff in AI, it doesn't always mean you should, or if you do, we briefly talked about this responsible AI, doing things the right way, making sure users' data is held securely, you respect the privacy, you make, good decisions, you try and avoid bias in the data in decision making. So there's a few things to think about, and I just want to briefly touch upon them here, just things to consider. So Microsoft, like many other vendors, they do take responsible AI very seriously. I don't work for Microsoft, so, it's not that I'm advocating, but I do think they've done it really well. They've got these 6 core principles, which are on the right-hand side there, things like inclusiveness and accountability, taking accountability for your bot, for your AI. And even, again, since I gave this talk a few months back, even this has really developed. They've got lots of cool new guidelines, lots of new toolkits, things to think about, different testing tools. So they've got different things like guidelines, management tools, and tech tools. And some of them on the left, I mean, there'd be pages and pages, there's so much. But some of the core ones there, things like inclusive design guidelines, really important stuff. You've got things like the Human AI Experience or HACS toolkit. There's a bunch of things in there that really, when you go through the stages of the concept of your AI, the design, and then the deployment, when you go through these phases of different things to check, checklists to go through, things to consider, things to think about, really kind of, it gives you lots of food for thought as well, can give you new ideas. So I'd highly recommend checking this kind of stuff out. And again, I've got URLs, I've got links at the bottom here for everything that I'm showing. When you do use any of the AI, for Microsoft, one cool thing that they do is they send you email notifications, such as this screenshot just here. So I actually received this just a few days ago. The cool thing is, having that responsible AI is saying, well, just to keep you updated on new services or ones that may be being deprecated or merged or whatever the case is, we want to keep you updated so you keep things responsible. You keep it up to date, you keep using the latest, and you're aware of these things. So it's not like every couple of months I need to go fishing around in, news sites or blogs to try and say, oh, has anything changed with this? Is there any cool new tools that I can use? It's really good that they're proactive. They're sending it to people who are actually using these services. So I think that's a nice touch. And again, for those interested, we won't play this here, but there's a short 5-minute video that Microsoft have put out there. It's a bit of a corporate video, but I think that the message is really good. They interview about 3 of the people who came up with their responsible AI standard. And they talk about, their perspective, the things they were thinking about, where they were coming from, who they consulted with to really try and do things the right way. So if you've got 5 minutes spare, I'd recommend it. It's worth a watch. It only came out, I think, last week, but it's quite interesting. And the very last thing on the responsible AI, Microsoft have taken it a bit further, and a few years ago, 2018, they actually created an article as well, specifically about responsible bots. And they've got these 10 guidelines. And again, I won't go through all of these right now, but there are things along the lines of making sure that your bot is making it clear to the user that they're talking to a bot. It's not faking that it's a human. Again, taking responsibility for the bot. Don't just say, oh, well, the bot did it based on the data, being accountable for that and saying why it made those choices. So again, good food for thought, really important things to think about. I'd highly recommend anyone getting into this is to kind of read through this and, consider things like that. Okay, so if anyone does want to learn more about Azure AI, there are a couple of certifications out there. At the moment, I don't know if they're going to add to them. Their certifications change quite regularly, Microsoft. So if you're just beginning, you want to get an understanding of the services, a good foundational knowledge of what's possible, then I'd highly recommend the Azure AI Fundamentals, and that's the AI 900 exam. I found that Microsoft Learn was good, that was straightforward, and I actually took that a few months ago. And it's a good starting point, I would say. And then if you do want to progress beyond that, there's also the Azure AI Engineer Associate. So that's the kind of the mid-level, the intermediate level that Microsoft certs have, and that's the AI 102 exam. So any more information, I'd highly recommend Microsoft Learn for those. Some good sort of walkthroughs and step-by-steps and explanation of what is possible with Azure AI. And if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I've really appreciated everyone showing up tonight and spending your time with us. Again, if there's any questions, fire away. If there are any you want to ask after tonight's session, my contact details are on screen. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and Twitter. They're the kind of two main channels that I use. Always like hearing from folks. I'm always happy to help as well. So thank you very much.
Very good. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, as Keith said, feel free to come off mute and ask questions if you have any.
AI or Terminator?
Yeah, either.
I should have just done that, actually. Got AI to give the presentation, actually. I spoke clearer, I think. Yeah.
The craziest thing I saw in AI was ages ago, actually. The Google demonstration of the bot ringing up a hairdresser's to book an appointment.
Oh, yeah.
That was scary.
It had the ums and ahs and pauses and everything, didn't it? Yeah,
that's right.
That
really geez, that was like, yeah, mentally scary.
Absolutely, yeah. Very convincing. Yeah.
I never heard anything more about that since then, actually. But
yeah, I think I heard that one on the BBC Tech Tent. As you say, it felt like a couple of years ago, maybe more. And yeah, I really thought that would just run and evolve and develop. But yeah, who knows?
Don't forget to tweet on the hashtag .NETNots. I see Andy and Stefan, you've both tweeted, so thank you for those tweets. So yeah, at the moment, you've each got 100% chance of winning. So if you want to make sure that that's not the case anymore for Stefan and Andy, sorry, then by all means, tweet and put yourself in with a chance of winning. By the way, Andy, I do like your Clippy.
I was about to say, do you get extra points for that? Because we love Clippy.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I still owe Jess a IoT Clippy, actually, and I will do that at some point.
Yay.
Because I want one, apart from anything else. But yeah, must get that made. So yeah, has anyone got any questions? Or has Keith done such a good job that he's just answered them all?
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Again, if not, you can always contact me afterwards. If you think of something later tomorrow, yeah, just go ahead and DM me. Yeah.
Have you used any of this stuff commercially there, Keith? I missed that if you said you did during your talk.
No, that's a good question, actually. To be honest, I haven't in production. It's always been tinkering with the services, pushing it. What can it do? What's it like getting approval to get it working on Teams and things like this, and really just kind of messing around. But it's, again, I do have friends who run a business. It's all ML based products, and they actually use it was ML.net. I think they use some of the more kind of services on that side of things, but they have actually used it in production. I've actually tested it and played with it and seen it in action. It's really quite impressive. And I wish I'd known a few years ago. I actually had just a company on the side, a bit of fun making mobile games, just solo game dev. And I did actually have one of those chatbots in the corner of the window, but this is before I got into Azure and really learned more. And I really wish I'd had that as the first line support. So I kind of, I did it in the wrong order there. Yeah.
No, you use what you've got access to. So absolutely. Yeah, it's, I used the Q&A maker ages ago and put that on a website, and that worked all right. It was quite good, actually. I forget when it was. I think, when did I do that? It might have been just at the start of COVID. I had to go at making something that would answer questions about COVID using Q&A. Not particularly pleasant, but it was a good thing that was on everybody's mind at the time, and it worked quite well. You just copy and pasted all of the questions and answers in a particular format and pasted it in and trained it, and then it would work. And it seemed quite good, actually.
Excellent.
And I've played with the other cognitive services. I've got a talk that uses the vision side of things, and I used vision a long time ago as well. And the emotion API as well was quite cool.
Oh yeah.
So,
I remember that. Yeah, seeing bits of that inferring, and some of the vision ones as well. Is it racy? Is it okay? Yeah. Is it are the people in this object detection? Yeah. There's a really good talk Lee Engelston gave.
Lee's awesome.
Yeah, I love his talks, like your own as well, actually. But there was a really good one. We both did the festive tech calendar, and he did a good one where he did the vision example, looking at Christmas tree images.
That's
of,
right.
Is it a Christmas tree?
Yeah.
Is it this much green and this, you can, is it got the lights and the shiny stuff and everything? It's very, very funny. He really walked through it really clearly as well. It's really good.
Yeah, I think he even had an upside down Christmas tree and it still got it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's a good talk that was. Have you played with Edge Impulse? Have you had a look at that yet?
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
Edge Impulse. They've got a free service, and you can train your models on there with either vision or sound. That's quite a good service to use, actually. I've made a cool proof of concept for an ecology project in Zambezi, training it to both see and hear elephants. It's really just a proof of concept, but it works quite well.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll look that one up. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's good in the IoT space because it can make tiny models as well that work. It's all TensorFlow stuff that essentially I'll be using, but it's worth a look and it's free. A certain number of training minutes anyway. So
is TensorFlow, is that Google or is that just an open source or
open source one?
Oh, okay, great. I've heard mention in some of the GCP stuff. I was unsure if it was theirs, but very good. Yep.
Lobe.ai is another one. That's a Microsoft one that a lot of people just haven't heard of, and that's a slightly different way of training your vision models. We had I've had an IoT show. I was running for a while. I'll be back doing that soon. But we had one of the folks who was working on that project at Microsoft come along and show us how that worked, and that was quite a cool project. Lobe, but more accessible than Azure Cognitive Services, which is saying something because certainly the Vision AI stuff is pretty accessible as it is. But
interesting.
Yeah, that was like a Raspberry Pi based system for that one. So very
good.